yeah, this is me, I can do this. And others are like, whoa, I'm out of here. I don't want to play this. This is not my game. So, which brings us to the point how to turn our propensities or our nature, our inclinations, into our sustenance. In other words, what feeds your engine? What drives you? What makes you you? Now we understand from the Gita and from the yoga texts that inherently we're all spiritual beings. We're all spirit souls. We're all eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. That's good news, right? That's a pretty good start. Would you agree?
It's a great start.
That's money in the bank. Once you know I'm eternal, I'm actually wise, and I'm blissful, nobody basically can touch you. It's pretty good for a start, right? So you can move in the world being invincible, so to speak. The yoga texts explain it's like a lotus leaf in water. The lotus leaf, even though it is growing out of the mud, the lotus flower, the name is pankaj, which means what comes from the mud or from obscurity. But because it is distinctly different in nature, it never really mixes with mud or with water, because it's got a different nature and quality altogether. Have you ever pushed a lotus leaf in the water? Have you ever done that?
No.
Okay, that's your homework, all right, for this week. You find a pond with some lotus flowers and push it down. You will see it comes right back up. And the water just curls off of it because it's got a kind of an oily texture, the whole leaf, the whole plant, so the water doesn't stick to it. So in a similar way, the soul is inherently pure, yet because of our false ego, our false conception of self, we identify with this world of names. And depending on our configuration, our psychophysical makeup, called the gunas, the three modes of material nature, which are
Goodness.
ignorance,
and passion.
and goodness. Yes, those are the three. Like the base colors, you have blue, red, and yellow. And you mix these three and you get everything. So in a similar way, you mix these three gunas, these three modes, and you get 8,400,000 different species, out of which 400,000 are human species. Now you may think, like, how can there be 400,000 human species? Seems like everyone's the same, right? Right? Not quite. Ever been to the subway? Ever looked around you? There's all kinds of different types of human people.
It's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag.
It's a mixed bag, yes. And there's a lot of
Variety. Integration,
yeah. So, and that's because those are the mixes of the different modes. Now, how do I know what drives my engine? Now, they don't ask you that in school or at university. We're doing campuses, going out, talking to students. And believe it or not, I ask everybody, what's your greatest challenge right now? Is it patience, expectations, or is it anxiety? And anxiety stands as number one. And what I'm anxious about, it's the great unknown, it's also the current episode. Mostly they're clueless on, is what I'm doing right now really gonna work out? Is it really gonna make a difference? Is it really what will bring me happiness? Have you ever wondered about that? Like, once in a while, when you can't sleep at night. So then it's really good to know, well, who am I? Not just spiritually, but also materially, who am I and what drives my engine? And to find that out is not such an easy task. Of course, you can go into the University of YouTube, and have you met people who were educated in the University of YouTube? They have clicked their way through the galaxy and pretty much looked at a lot of things. Hey, you made it. Malik is in house.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us. Please have a seat.
I'm not as flexible.
Huh?
I'm not as flexible.
No?
No.
You can have a chair, you can sit on the floor, wherever you feel comfortable. Feel free to choose. So we were just discussing on the concept of spiritual entrepreneurship. I just met Malik a couple hours ago, and happy he made it. So there's a tension between those two terms, right? Spiritual and entrepreneurship. Spiritual sounds like something non-material, something lofty, something internal, and entrepreneurship is like, sounds more like business management, getting things done. And these concepts seem to be at odds with each other. There's a certain tension between those two concepts. And we discussed that tension could be a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just recapping for the sake of putting Malik up to speed. And now we're discussing our true nature, what our true nature, our true propensity is. So in the Gita, the major wisdom, the major yoga text, it has been explained that we are the soul, with the Atma, which resides in the heart. Do you live more in your mind or more in your heart? That gives you an indication on how much you are in touch with yourself. Nowadays, because we live in a very analytical world, a very expedient world, where results are valued, people prefer to live in their minds because they think, I can analyze, I can discern, I can decide, I can execute. And even though people have been doing that for quite a while now, what seems to be elusive is happiness. Because with execution and achievement, it's not automatic that happiness is just part of that bag, part of that success. That's not a given. So we're talking how the soul, the Atma, that resides in the heart, is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. Those three qualities are there. That's why any environment that is temporary, that is not really enjoyable, and that is not giving me the full view of my options or my potential, are not really agreeable. When we feel limited, when we feel stifled, when we feel this is like blocking my potential. So how to find out what is my nature, what drives my engine? For that, usually it's good to have a teacher. You can call him guru, you can call him, mentor or friend or career counselor, a person who can really see your propensity and what will actually suit you best. Just like if you're a sports person. I don't know, anyone here play sports? Yes? You have a coach, and the coach can pretty much observe you and see what position would suit you best on the team, right? That's the coach's job. That's what he's meant to do. And to bring out the best in the athlete, to make him really excel. So the Bhagavad Gita gives us indicators that there are 4 broad categories of interaction, of what fuels your engine. And they're categorized as the intellectuals, the administrators, the merchants, and the laborers. And they have a different incentive. You understand incentive?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Motivation.
Motivation, yes. What gets them going, so to speak. Okay. So, an intellectual, what do you think? What is an intellectual motivated by?
Knowledge.
Knowledge, yes. It's all about knowledge. It's all about the acquisition of knowledge, of studying, going deeper into things, understanding things to the fullest. Everything is based on wisdom culture. That is for an intellectual. That is all in all. They don't really care, does it pay or doesn't it pay? It's just, that's their currency, so to speak. For an administrator, what's their currency?
I'm not sure. Is it
Power.
Structure.
Oh, you must not be an administrator if you're not sure. It is power. They only want to know one thing: who is in charge? Who runs this operation? That's their question. For a merchant or a business person, what's the bottom line?
Currency.
Transaction.
Money. Yes. Who's got the bucks? Right? Who makes the most amount of money? That's the person who rules. That's the language of a businessman, of a merchant. For a laborer class, what's their criteria?
Hard work.
Hard work gives what?
Output,
Results.
Hard work for what?
Building.
Time. Money.
Not even money. What does a laborer want?
To get jobs done.
Security.
What do you buy with that security?
Performance.
Creation.
Performance.
Creation.
Enjoyment.
Enjoyment. Oh.
Enjoyment. Pleasure. Sensual enjoyment.
Like a craftsman.
Sensual enjoyment.
Sense gratification.
Sense gratification. Yes. That's the fuel. That's what drives. You have people in most parts of the world working for very little, working very hard, yet if they have their food, their shelter, their sense gratification, that's fine. That's okay. They're good with that. A merchant, he's ready to go and work in abysmal situations, to cheat and lie, to get his bottom line, to get his profit. An administrator, he just wants to know who's in charge, what's the law, how does the power configuration move. Yeah. And again, intellectuals, they have their incentive. So it's good to know these things so we can understand what is my own psychophysical makeup. It's not that one is better or worse, they're just different. They're just different operating systems. Now, because we are in Kali Yuga, there's 4 different ages, and we're in Kali Yuga right now. We're in the age of quarrel and hypocrisy, where it's a mixed bag, as we discussed before. So, most likely, the majority has some traits of these 4. Yet to find out what is my predominant trait, what is my incentive, what gets me going, that's important to understand. So we're not judging, we're not putting people in boxes with labels and saying, you're this, or you're that, or, but it's just good to understand what's my propensity, what's my inclination, what's my nature. Again, this is the lower nature, there's the higher nature, the spiritual nature, which is eternal, which is my true identity. Yet, as long as I have a body and a mind, I have to work with the tools that I've been given. Would you agree? Does this
Yes.
make any sense so far? If not, feel free to speak up.
Sure.
Yes.
So could there be an interplay with the 4 different,
Interplay in regards to
the difference between like a laborer? Could you
Mix
express
them.
different qualities within you? Could you be more intellectual?
Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely. And it is not a given. The Gita tells us this is not according to birth. This is according to qualities and work. So, and due to circumstance, sometimes we may be forced to take on an occupation that is not really conducive to our own nature. Have you ever experienced that you were forced to do something that was not really your thing? And you did it temporarily because you were forced in that situation in order to achieve a certain result, a certain objective. You could even be good at it to do it, but you weren't really happy, you weren't really satisfied. You didn't really feel like, yeah, I'm ready to devote my life to this. So these are extenuating circumstances, these are exceptions, these are emergencies, but it should not be the long term. Because usually a person is best engaged according to their propensity. Now, before we choose our vocation, or we choose our career, we choose our association, we should really do that introspection, do that self-assessment to understand, who am I? That's why the yoga texts say, Kayami, who am I? Atato Brahma Jigyasa, now is the time to inquire into the true nature of self, so that we have a clear understanding of who I am spiritually and also materially. Now, one interesting thing is, you can't change your nature. You can purify your nature. You can engage your nature in either a beneficial or in a contrary way, but nature, as far as this life goes, this is the deck of cards we've been handed. So, yet, when we understand how to apply ourselves, how to engage ourselves, we can make the most of what we got. And that's what we're here for. That's what we're here to discuss. To better understand our nature, our propensity. Then, besides these 4 categories of occupations, there are also 4 stages of life, which are explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Would you like to hear about them?
Sure,
Are you sure?
please.
Mhm.
Okay, that's affirmative. I will tell you about it, even if you don't. That's the kind of guy I am. I was a hockey player, which means even if the other party doesn't agree, we can get the job done somehow, right? So, the first phase of life is called student life. And it's meant to last, actually it says from the time of birth, for the first 5 years, a child is supposed to mostly play, and just play, and they will have fun, and they will learn how to interact and how to engage with the world. Then from the ages of 5 to 25 is student life. But since the first 5 years of playful life is actually also learning, but learning through playing, so the first phase of life is called student life, also called brahmacharya, which means celibacy, that there is no distraction. There is not chasing after sense gratification, after profit, after fame. There's none of that. Full dedication to study. Then, at the age of 25, people enter the next stage of life, which is grihastha, or married life, household life, where people get married and they live in a union of husband and wife with children. They engage in creating prosperity, creating a field, an environment where wealth and children and society can flourish. Then at the age of around 50, when they have grown-up children, comes the stage of detached life, where you have achieved, welcome, you have built your little empire, your children are of age, they're ready to take over, then it's time to detach, be detached, let go. But still be there, still engage, still make sure things are all right, but taking a more detached approach, letting the next generation flourish and take their opportunity. And then the last stage of life, which is called sannyas, or renunciation, where a person prepares themselves for the great journey, for the ultimate test of leaving this world, the ultimate test, which is death. That is the final stage. So these are the 4 stages. Now, who lives 100 years nowadays? Very few, right? Very few. So that kind of shrinks those stages. If you only got 80 years, so then it's 4 times 20. If you only live 60 years, that would be 4 times 15. But it kind of makes things difficult, because by the age of 15, you haven't really completed your education fully, nor can you raise a family in 15 years. These things take a little longer. So you understand, there's some tension again, there's some time constraints. That's why it's important to have these type of discussions. Otherwise you wake up, you're middle-aged, and you figure out like, hey, what the heck am I doing, you know? Like, it's not really working. I'm not really successful materially, I'm not really successful spiritually, so who am I? What am I doing here? Am I just, you know, treading water and killing time till time kills me? Or is there more to this game? Because after a while, you've been around the block, you've tried a few things, you've done a few things, and you realize maybe we need a different dialogue, a different kind of approach, a different language to actually succeed, to actually evolve. So these are some general guidelines and teachings from the Bhagavad Gita. Of course, to have mentors, to have friends. Peer assessment is the strongest form of learning, because you spend most of your life with peers. People of your age, people of your interest, people of your trade, of your orientation. Those are the people you spend the majority of your time with. Make sure that your peer group is a healthy peer group that can actually bring out the best in you, rather than the worst. Because monkey see, monkey do. We tend to become influenced by our environment. Has this ever happened to you?
Yes.
Have you ever found yourself walking out of a movie or out of a situation and you start talking and acting and behaving, and then you cut yourself and you went like, that wasn't me, you know? I don't behave like that. I don't talk like that. That's not me. Has this ever happened to you?
Yes.
That you caught yourself and you realize that, woo, you know?
It's a role.
It's a role.
You enact.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a membrane and it goes both ways, you know? So no man's an island. You become influenced by your environment. And so we should be mindful, not paranoid, but mindful, what kind of association we engage in and how we move in the world. That doesn't mean you become a hermit, you know, you dig a hole somewhere in the ground and, you know, you just order stuff through your hole. And I mean, some people have tried, but it's not really such a blissful or productive life. So to find a good peer group who can give you accurate assessment, because sometimes our own mind may not give us accurate assessment. Has your mind ever told you, I got this, I got it under control? I can quit any day. Have you heard this before? Has your mind ever told you that? And then guess what? It doesn't happen, right? I mean, I'm from before the web, you know, I remember the time even before cell phones. We had a life. It was a good life. I had friends, you know, you just walk over to their shack, you know, you knock on the door or you yell, or you just walk in because they're friends, they don't mind, and it's okay. And now it's like, are you available? You know, can we do this? Is this happening? And then it goes back and forth like a zillion times. And you actually exert more energy. It's more painful than it gives you pleasure. So then you go like, what the heck, you know? Screw this, I'm not gonna do this. I'm just gonna interact with whoever shows up in my life, and that should be just good enough, right? Otherwise you just have more headache and more tension and more pain. And that's really not what we're here for, right? Because we discussed in the beginning, for those of you who came a little later, we are, in Sanskrit it's called Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Anybody knows what these three are? Sat means?
Truly?
Yeah, also means eternal. Chit, huh? Yes, chit, knowledge or wisdom. Huh? And Anand. Ananda means blissful. That's our inherent nature, that's who we are. We're eternal, wise, blissful entities. That's pretty cool, right? That's pretty good. So whenever your circumstances or your mind tries to convince you otherwise, that you are a ... then you say, hey, no, the Gita has affirmed that I am not of that nature. Just like a lotus leaf, you can push it down into the water, you can push it into the mud, it always comes back up. And the mud and the water cannot stick to it because it's of a different nature. But if I start identifying with that role that has become superimposed upon me for whatever reasons, then I start acting that role. I may be very good at acting, but I'm an actor nonetheless. All right, yes, you and you.
Two parts. One is do we really choose our associations, or is it a process of life happening and then we're presented with experiences and we have a feedback as to where we're at and where we choose to go? And in alliance with that question, how does that relate with the lotus, like being its truest, highest, best version of self, regardless of that environment? Like, is that mud necessary and it doesn't matter, so we shouldn't
Okay, I started
be the
with the
judge?
second one. I started with the second one.
Cool.
An analogy is there to prove a certain point,
Mm.
or maybe 2, maybe 3 points, but don't try to stretch it too far. I understand?
Mm.
So the lotus analogy is good to prove that, we're of a different nature. Now, how can I function in this world of names without a body and a mind? It will be difficult. I'll be an unembodied spirit, which is also an opportunity, but not so great, because I won't have a body with which to express myself and which to enact my desires. So it'll be kind of a frustrating experience. So even though right now it seems like the body is limiting me and is pushing me to do certain things and to associate with certain situations and people, it is also an opportunity. Just like right now, the episode that we're in right now can be seen either as a tragedy or as an opportunity. What do you prefer?
Opportunity.
Let's hear it for tragedy. Anybody likes tragedy? No? Come on, how about a little tragedy? No, it's an opportunity. Certainly, a couple of things changed, and a few of our plans changed the last couple of years, but it's also given us an opportunity to introspect, to have more solitude, to have more sobriety, to have a little bit more sanity, and to just think a little bit about what's going on. Have you felt that that's happened in the last couple of years for you? Instead of just kicking the can down the road and chasing, that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, or whatever it is that we were out there to chase. So it's certainly being an opportunity can be seen as a blessing. So even though our environment is there and it seems like it's continuously influencing us and we really don't have that much freedom, we do have freedom. Because the freedom, that little bit of independence, cannot be taken away from the soul. That is inherent. That is our birthright. Anybody can get up, walk out of the room, go outside, never return back. And many have done. So that choice is always there. Of course, if you are sitting in an airplane and the doors are closed and the plane takes off, there's very little you can do, or very little that you should do, to try to prevent that. And you should go to the journey. But what you'll do on the plane, that's still your choice.
Opportunity.
There's opportunity. You can either talk to the person next to you, and maybe it's a businessman, maybe you'll make some lucrative type of business arrangement.
Practice patience.
Yeah. Or you pick a fight with somebody and you'll be arrested. Many people have tried many things, So the choices are there, a limited amount of choices, but still that little bit of freedom is given to us. So the yoga texts, the Gita especially, is giving us, Krishna lays it all out. And he says, okay, these are your options. Go down this way, this is what's going to happen. You go down that way, that's what's going to happen. He's laying it all out. And he says at the end, okay, Arjuna, it's up to you. I'm your friend. I told you what your options are. Now you go ahead. and you do what you do best. That's love. Because love also means the freedom not to love. Otherwise, it's not really love. If I put a gun to your head and say, hey, you think I'm cool? Think you love me? Not so cool, right? Not so lovely. So, Krishna, because he's detached, he is God. He's not campaigning for supremacy. He loves everybody. So he gives everybody the choices. He also gives them the opportunity to engage in the field and to pursue their dreams and chase whatever it is that they're after. At the same time, he also says, okay, these are the options that you have, and this is what I would do. This is what I think is what a wise person does. And then he leaves it up to us. Yet he appears also as teachers, as different saints, and he shows us by example how to actually walk the path, so we don't have to just, make it out of thin air. But freedom is inherent, it can't be taken away. Anybody who says, I'm just a victim of circumstance, I was born on the wrong side of town or the wrong side of the river, and that's why I'm so, whatever I am. No. We all have choice. Nobody can take that away. And nobody can hurt you but yourself. So that's why this wisdom culture is actually self-empowerment. Because to see myself as a victim is really not very productive. It's also not very real. Yes?
So my question was to, moving around in this world of being informed, how do you not get sucked in to the roles that you play sometimes? I go to work sometimes, or I'm in a sales position sometimes, and they tell you to speak this way, or I was in school and, you gotta act in a certain way there. Then you change location, go around different people, and you act a different way. How do I not get too sucked in? Just because even though I'm in this role and it's working, it's advantageous to me, I don't want this to be the mask that I wear.
I get you. It's like when you ever play drama? You ever play theater?
Yep, a while ago, a long time ago.
Sometimes there's not enough players and you have to play 2 or 3 roles. So you kind of have to, juggle hats. And I know for guys this is more difficult than for ladies. Ladies are better at multitasking. That's why they're mothers, They're better at playing different roles, so to speak. Once you understand that it's just a role, it's not me. I'm a distinct, separate person from all these different roles. But I have certain obligations, I have certain propensities, and there are certain things that need done, and I'm ready to do them in that capacity. But you have a certain sense of detachment. So you're taking yourself out of the center. You're not the object, you're the observer. Okay? So you emotionally detach, you take a step back, and you look at the situation as third person. Your whole perspective changes. That's why it says in the yoga text that when you feel ecstasy, when you feel actual joy, real happiness in your heart. Has this ever happened to you? I hope so. Don't reveal it, even to your own mind. Because your mind will profane it. You know the word profane? You know what it means? We'll make it mundane. We'll kill it. Has it ever happened that you were doing something that you were really enjoying, that you were really exceedingly happy about, and then your mind told you, why don't you take a picture of that?
Yep, social media.
And at that moment, the whole thing was just
The
over.
energy.
The energy's gone, right?
You do it for the wrong reason. That
Wrong reason.
yeah.
It's just gone. It just killed it.
Exactly.
It's just finished. It just vanished into thin air. Even when your mind tells you, hey, you're really cool, dude. You know, you've got this figured out. You know, like you, number one. Hey, we're a team, man. We've got it figured out. And next thing you know, you get kicked from all sides, and you wonder, like, what happened? What's going on here? Yeah, your ego took over, and you got whacked. So, this is spiritual life 101, like this is basic stuff. But it's good to become aware of that. Otherwise, we'll fall into the same traps. We'll hit the same brick wall over and over and over. When we're in this world, we're forced to take on different roles and act in different capacities. Some places you're the student, some places you're a workforce, some places you're a player in a team, then you're with friends, then you're with family. So how to make sense of it all? That's why it's so important that we get up early and we have a spiritual practice where we connect with ourselves, with the soul and the Supreme Soul that's there in our heart, our eternal friend and guide. And we have this, what's called sacred space. We have this intense spiritual practice where we feel totally rejuvenated and nourished, that when I go out into the world, I'm not going out into the world to get something. I'm not going out in order to, because I'm in want. I'm going out from a position of strength, a position of satisfaction, a position of fulfillment, to share something. It will make you a completely different person. As long as you look through the glasses of what's in it for me, or as I say when I teach in New York, if everybody keeps screwing everybody, nobody's going to feel the love. Be a giver. You will never run out of opportunities. Just like when you're in a team, you got to be a team player. Otherwise, it's not really going to happen. And that's why right now, there ain't really that much there in terms of family, in terms of team, in terms of society and community, because good old capitalism is not built that way. It's a different type of a mechanics. It's a different type of a system. So that's why it's important to become aware of these mechanics and to know how to navigate in this world. Otherwise, we'll become exceedingly frustrated. And that's not good, because then you become incapable of executing and of feeling fulfillment and a sense of achievement. So, in which propensity we will be acting, that depends according to our nature, our propensity, our karma, our situation that we're in. There are many factors. According to the Bhagavad Gita, there are 5 factors of action. What are they? Anybody read the Gita?
Wealth, pride, fame,
Nope.
fortune.
One more time the question.
The 5 factors of action according to Bhagavad Gita.
Is that karma, right? Karma.
Karma, action is karma. Yes.
Krodh, Lobh,
No.
Is it
Come on, Pune. Educated, studied. Give me 5 factors of action according to the Gita. What are they?
One is the self.
Okay, that's a good start. You need a person, okay.
Devotion.
The super soul.
Intention.
Super soul or Daiva, yeah, the supreme. What else is there?
Intention.
Where you're at, the field.
The field, yes, your environment, where you're moving in. Work was mentioned. You have to actually endeavor, you got to do something. You can't just wait and expect miracles to happen. Time, yes, time. Kala. If you're impatient, you're never gonna do great things. It takes time. It takes time. Right now, many of you are fairly young in life and in spiritual life, so don't be impatient. Don't think like, hey, I wanna drop the magic pill, you know, like this is gonna happen right now. I tell you, many people have already dropped the magic pill and it didn't do so great for them. So if you really want to grow spiritually, you have to be ready to be consistent. Consistent means to make the right choices over and over again. Not just once, not just twice, but have a consistency to follow up on that. Does that help?
Yeah.
Other questions or points? We got time for a little discussion here? Yes?
You kind of talked on it. The mechanisms, is that similar? Can they work simultaneously, as you were saying with the hats, like for women and masks? Like, could we be
For women and men?
as you said with can the mechanisms in which we work in
They can be
happen
similar.
simultaneously
They can be similar, yes.
or intersect? Or
They
is
can be similar, but they're distinct.
like red, yellow, and blue? Like how you kind of, as you
In
said?
regards to male, female, or in
No,
regards
no,
to
no,
what?
in general, the human being. I just meant like, is it something that we're planting different seeds of different vegetables and they have a different maturation rate, or, you know, and they can all grow simultaneously, or is it, no, this is a sweet potato garden and that's that, you know, is it, this is my hat?
Right now,
or-
it's a mixed bag, because nobody, practically speaking, is just of one kind. There's always overlapping and different types of propensities. Yet you will see that if you predominantly engage in a certain way, you will be more productive, more satisfied, and you feel more natural in that environment.
Mm.
So figure out what that environment is and what that mode of action is, and you will be more happy, you will be more satisfied.
But is the goal to be satisfied or to be in alignment with what actually works and what's our optimal?
You will be satisfied when you're peaceful. And when you're not really engaged according to your propensity, you'll never be peaceful.
But isn't it perspective? Like you can be in a merchant environment, as I've been in, you know, this environment, I've been in another environment, and I've kind of tweaked them for my benefit to see that this is how I can improve in a
Oh
certain
yes, absolutely, you can tweak it and make
Like
almost
perspective.
anything work,
perspective.
yeah,
Like
yes,
real estate, you may not like the transactional financial part,
yes,
but you could say, I'm offering people a service to find shelter.
absolutely. Or you can say, I'm an educator, but I teach, you know, I can teach anything, I can teach banking, I can teach mechanics, I can teach warfare, you know, I'm an educator. You give me any type of science, any type of textbook, I can teach it,
But the
because I'm an
importance,
educator.
but the importance is to be the best version of you, like this is your environment that you flourish the best,
Yes,
or is it just experimental?
no, it's not experimental, because you don't live long enough to make all the mistakes. You know, you only have 100 years to remember. So time is precious, and that's why it's good to figure out before you changed majors like 5 times, you know, and you wasted 15 years at uni and 150 grand in student loan or student debt later, you go like, why am I still, you know, driving Uber Eats or whatever I'm doing, and why haven't I really fulfilled my potential? Because that discussion should happen early on. And it's really the job of the teachers, the mentors, and the parents to see to that. But because those are not really there at the moment to give us that kind of support and guidance, that's why we need a different type of environment. That's why it's so important that we first focus on our spiritual identity, because once you have that established, it's much easier to understand and to accept what your material propensities are. If somebody just walk up to you and tell you you're a this or a that, you go like, hey, you know, get off my planet, you know, who the hell you think you are? But if you already have a grip on what your sense of identity is, then to accept what your lower, your material nature is not that hard. It's not that difficult. Because you know it's temporary anyway, you know? Like me, I'm a fourth generation Italian immigrant to Switzerland and a first generation Swiss immigrant to America, you know? I know what I like to eat. I know what works for me. I know what kind of relationship, what kind of friendships I want, in which environment I thrive. Yet, I also know how to do the needful, and I can be of service, and I can contribute in whichever situation, whatever is necessary, even if it's not exactly according to my propensity. That's where the act of letting go and sweet surrender comes, where we decide out of our own volition that for the greater good, for the cause, I'm ready to sacrifice a little bit of my freedom and my independence to make this thing work. And that's where the magic sauce comes in. That's where the magic starts to happen. When you start becoming empowered, doing things that you never knew that you were capable of. You know, when the cosmogonal stuff starts to happen. And that's the exciting part, instead of just work and die. Because that movie gets a little old after a while. We're all here because we want to feel the magic, right? We want to experience the magic. We want to live life to the fullest. Not just, you know, okay, you know, done a few things and you know, check that. Great, what's next, you know? Yes?
So the key is to acknowledge and feed the propensities, like, in a way that satisfies them, but not to get overindulged.
Absolutely, and for that you need higher knowledge. You need to have that third person perspective where you can emotionally detach and with true intelligence understand what's happening, which roles am I playing here, what's the intention behind it, what's the purpose that it serves, who do I try to please. I can try to please the world, but you know, the world is still ungrateful. Have you ever noticed that? You can try to please everybody, and at the end, you're not even pleasing yourself.
Okay,
Or you can try to do the right thing, which means watering the root of the tree, which means pleasing Krishna, pleasing God, and you will notice how there's a universal language, and it's called Bhakti, or devotion, that when people see that you're trying, sincerely trying to do your level best. I was out there today for a couple of hours in the subway, just trying to connect with people. And there's people of all walks of life, of all different, you know, everyone's just rushing through there like mad dog dash, going through that subway station. And many don't speak the language, many have different plans and different ideas. But they appreciate just that moment of connection, that moment of sincerity. Even if there's no transaction, except just a look and a smile. And people are like, oh, okay, yeah. Humanity's back. There's still some goodness out here. I had a young girl from Bangladesh. I spoke to her in Bengali and asked her if she's doing Ramadan, and she was completely surprised that I knew what she was all about. And she ceremoniously handed over $1 and felt very happy to contribute to the cause. So everybody's looking for the same thing. Everybody wants pure love of God. Everybody wants ecstasy. Yet the ways of how to go about it, they may differ according to the culture. So we have to acknowledge that and try to see the unity in the diversity, not become discouraged. You got the whole world here. The only thing that can make it work is devotion. If you have a devotional attitude, an inclusive attitude, if you understand that, we can engage everybody. We had somebody over here. Somebody else had their hand. Jimmy?
I was wondering if you could talk about consistency and association.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yes, consistency, to not just get things done, but get the right things done. execute consistently. It takes a certain sense of discipline. And initially we may not have it because we may just not have it in us, or we may not have seen it or experienced it. Yet when we understand that this is what really makes a difference in my life, then we prioritize, we align ourselves with our purpose. Just like if you do gardening, it's not just about, going to Home Depot and buying a couple of seeds and throwing a few things around and mucking around with a few tools, in the garden. The best fertilizer is the shadow of the gardener. You have to go into the garden every day. Just be there every day. Talk to the plants, do a little weeding, water. That's what's required. Same with your spiritual life, your spiritual garden, your spiritual creeper. Daily invest in your spiritual practice. Just like you want to be an athlete, it's not like you just buy the t-shirt, and then it's like, I'm the guy, Or you buy the gym membership, or you go to the field and kick a ball around once in a blue moon. But it's about consistency. Now initially it may seem a little artificial, it may seem a little mechanical, and your mind will tell you, hey, why are you doing this? You could be doing other stuff. I do this because I know it's good for me. It's like you want to be a master's student or a PhD student or something, or build a project. It takes a lot of effort. You have to really build up in order to get there. Now, why am I doing this talk on spiritual entrepreneurship? You may think, like, what's this guy, got to show for himself? Normally, these kind of topics are done by overachievers or stuff like that. But I was forced due to circumstance to become quite focused and quite expert in what I do, just because of the situation that I was in. One of my first coaches, my hockey coach, he showed me, your wrists are way too thin. You can't really do it strength-wise. But if you put your heart into it and you develop technique, you can still be good. But because you have to have a certain mass, in order to play certain types of games. And I didn't have that. So in a similar way, it's not really about what kind of deck of cards you're being dealt, but really what's your intention, what you put into it. Ultimately, desire is everything. If you want something, eventually it'll happen. It may take a while, it may take several lifetimes, but ultimately, because Krishna rewards us according to our endeavor and our surrender, and you can achieve your goals. The question is, are they really worthwhile achieving? So before we bark off the wrong tree, or we do the wrong homework, or we chase our dreams, let's take a step back and look at it objectively. Is this really not what I want, but what I need? Because they may not be the same things. The things that I want and the things that I truly need. I remember I was 15 years old. I was going to a boarding school in the Swiss Alps. I was just a sports kid and very competitive. I had three desires. I wanted to travel the world, I wanted to have a lot of friends, and I wanted to be the best at what I do. And by chanting the mantra, it happened. Within 7 years. Yet, I also could look at myself, and that took a little while longer, and chuckle and laugh about some of the things that I that I wanted, and that I had worked hard for, and that I had achieved, and realized that there was something much more precious, something much more valuable, something much more meaningful, way above and beyond all of this. But still, Krishna allowed me to achieve my goals, and also to laugh about them, and to realize the irony of it. And so, I'm sure you have similar experiences in your life. So, yes.
My question is about devotion.
Yes.
So can devotion come to somebody's life automatically? Or devotion is something that needs to be earned?
Devotion comes from a person that has devotion. Only one who has it can give it. You don't just get it theoretically, or it just falls out of thin air. So if you want devotion, you have to, like a friend of mine, he was California State champion in wrestling. He went to Berkeley, and he was #1 wrestler in California on the college level. And he told me that when he won the prize, he saw himself in third person putting the other guy down, and everybody went cheering and went crazy. And he said, and I felt absolutely nothing. I was just observing the whole thing. And that's when he stopped wrestling. Later he became a TM teacher, meditation teacher with the Maharishi. And at some point he got curious, because the Maharishi was always reading these books and telling these stories. So he asked him, where do you get all your stories from? What kind of books are you reading? And Maharishi told him, I'm reading the Bhagavatam. But if you want what I'm reading, you have to go to Bhaktivedanta Swami. Because if you want devotion, you have to go to somebody who has devotion. Because he said, I'm only teaching Ayurveda and Hatha Yoga. He was honest enough to admit that he was just giving certain things. And if you want the other thing, you got to go to a teacher who can give you that. So if you want devotion, you have to find a teacher who has devotion. Now, how do you judge? Well, the criteria are given there in the text. It's very clear. It's a person who's selfless, a person who is loving, who is kind, who is compassionate, who is tolerant, who is patient. All these qualities are there. And over and above all is a lover of God and of all of God's creation. And such personalities exist. They're here, right now, walking the earth. The question is not who is a spiritual master. The question is, what is a disciple? Am I ready to be a student? Because discipleship means discipline. Discipulus. In Latin, it means conscious control over lifestyle. Do I have conscious control over my lifestyle? Not just 5 minutes a day, but prolonged periods. Now, of course, we're beginners, so don't be too hard on yourself. We may lapse and have our glitches and our struggles, but on an overall, am I moving in the right direction? Is there trajectory? Is there progress? Am I actually evolving? Or are we experiencing the human devolution? That we are, going back into caveman mode, or we're just fluctuating, Depends on the days, there are odds and evens, so sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. But to find that consistency, that is required. Because as you know, in any game, it's not just when you score, but it's when you take a hit. That's when you win or lose the game. It's not your couple of high marks, it's your couple of low marks that will kill your average. So you try to weed out those. Of course, it's hard, because attraction is stronger than aversion. It's much easier to just invest into the positive than to try to go after the negative. But still, we may have some debilitating habits. Yet, once you want something real bad because it's really what I truly want, it's very easy to overcome our attachments, our bad habits. So keep feeding the good dog, and the bad dog will become more and more quiet. But the more we feed our lower tendencies, the more those will take over. That's why association is so important. That we're together with people who are conscious, who are aware, who are honest with themselves and others. And that's what friendships are for, that we can admit, okay, I got a problem. I'm not putting myself here on a pedestal. We're here, this is a workshop. We're here to work on this and to learn so we can actually improve ourselves and be part of the solution rather than part of the problem. Everybody already knows what the problems are. It's not, you don't have to be a PhD in, in analytics. But the question is, how to stick with the progressive path and not fall off the bandwagon and get back into weird stuff.
Follow
And in
through.
New York, there's all sorts of weird stuff.
Oh, yeah.
All over the place.
Oh.
Every corner.
Every time.
Yes, sir.
So you said keep feeding the good dog, I mean the
Yes.
good habits,
Yeah.
and not to worry too much about the bad things. It's gonna make up in time. So
Yes, it all comes out in the wash.
so not to be worried about like how much consistent you are, but if you are still doing it, continue doing
You
it.
just
then-
gotta move forward, it's like if you ever learn how to run, how to drive a bicycle, initially, if you're too freaked out about how, you just have to get on it and start paddling, You just have to get some momentum, then how to actually navigate is not so difficult. Of course, after a while, you also realize, I need to be aware, I need to see what's going on. Where do you look when you ride a bicycle?
Ahead.
Straight ahead.
Straight ahead?
Well, you kind of have to look at your peripherals kind of a little bit too. Like,
Well, when you're in India, you better have 360 vision. Because anything can come and hit you and kill you. So you better have that.
Sonar going.
Yeah, you better have your sonar going. Of course, you predominantly look ahead. You also should look down, whether there is,
Something.
yeah, because I saw some potholes that you can practically kill a truck with.
Right.
So there are some, yeah.
Now, sorry. No, I was just thinking like even the bad things, like you said, the obstacles, right? They keep coming, just ignore it and just keep moving with.
Yes, keep moving. Don't be too hard on yourself. Your
That's
mind
right.
will try to cheat you and say, "Oh, look at you, Oh, you went back. You binge watched, cricket all weekend. Didn't do anything spiritual. Just went fully absorbed into whatever it is that you're totally obsessed by." I'm just making stuff up here. And don't take offense. And then you say, "Yeah, okay, fine, but I know maybe I should cancel my subscription, Maybe I should unplug from certain activities." Regulate, reduce, renounce. Some things you can't give them up and walk away from them just in a flash. Some stuff it's easy, other stuff not so much. Like one time, one of the disciples of Prabhupada, he was carving Jagannath deities. He was carving deities, a very spiritual activity. And Prabhupada came and he saw that there was a packet of cigarettes on the head of Lord Jagannath. So he, with his cane, flicked that off. Shyamasundar was scared that his teacher will chastise him because it's really inappropriate. But Prabhupada said, Prabhupada is the one who translated the Gita. So our grandmaster, our grand teacher. So he said, don't let this little thing, this cigarette, come between you and Krishna. What you do is every day you smoke one less. And then when you arrive at 0, then you give it up. And the student was so touched by his compassion and his kindness, he thought he's gonna, flip out and make a big scene out of it. But he was so touched by his kindness, his compassion, that moment he decided, I'm gonna quit smoking right now. Because it's really a decision that you can take any given point in life, right? Now, of course, we all have our addictions because we are accustomed. And it's said that power is a bigger drug than even sex. That's why some people who are so high on their power trip in politics or in corporations, they forget about anything else. That's their thing. That's their everything. But once you understand the analogy of not being the object but being the observer, and you take a step or two back, it really cuts that wire. It really cuts that attachment. And then you can actually execute and work in different fields and not be implicated, which is a real gift. Because you're in this world, you'll be forced to act. But this stuff you don't learn at university. This stuff you learn in the school of life or the school of hard knocks. So we're fortunate, we have this opportunity. The Lotus Room is here, you can come here. There's other kind of workshops and programs that we have. There's teachers and monks here who are very open and kind-hearted. They're available for coaching and develop friendship with people who are in the same field. That's how I learned my stuff. That's how I learned sports. That's how I learned cooking. That's how I learned everything I know, because I was just a little punk kid, you know. So stay hungry, stay humble, have an attitude of a learner, and develop a daily spiritual practice. You know this little airplane on your phone? Have you noticed? Have you seen it?
Airplane mode?
Yes.
That little airplane on your phone?
Airplane mode.
Are you using it?
I use the off button.
I used to sleep.
The off button is one version, the sleep is another
Like
version
the
of
do
the
not
airplane
disturb
mode.
Turn it off.
Use them, okay? Have time off technology, have time off where you can just live your life and chant Hare Krishna, read the Gita, invest in yourself so you can actually make a difference. We'll have more time for discussion. Are you ready? Okay.
Now, you can have a kirtan, japa, or prasadam.
Well, what do you suggest? It's already 8:30.
Yeah.
Oh.
Maybe just a quick 5-minute kirtan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quick 5-minute chanting for those who came late and missed out on the first session.
Yeah, so we
Because
can
we got started
The bus did not wait.
on the dot. We're written.
Okay.
so
But I'm glad you all showed up. Honestly speaking, I'm impressed. I meet amazing people here in the city. It's just amazing. The fabric that's here is amazing. So I believe that great things will come out of this place. Yet it's a team play. You can't really win alone, as you may have noticed. Even if you play golf or you drive Formula One race car, it's a team play. And if we're not a team player, it's gonna be difficult. It's gonna be hard. So thanks for showing up and collaborating on this project. There's many opportunities also for volunteering and for, service opportunities, things you can discuss with the locals. I'm just a guest on my way. But it's, there's a lot of opportunity. Yes.
Really quick one. But would you say with singularity or individuality, I understand what you say and I completely agree. But I also have the flip side, the duality perspective of in order for me to share my truest strengths with others, I need to show up fully myself first. So there's a certain responsibility or diligence that I have to do on my side of the court in order to meet you halfway, So would you say that, it's probably not to identify fully with these roles, but to have a balance in them?
You can only truly play a role when you're detached. As long as you're attached to the result and you think this is me, I own it, you're never gonna be great. You may be good, but you're not gonna be great. That unconscious competence, being enthusiastic, entails to be divinely inspired or even possessed by God. Like when they say, oh, he's the God, you know, like, that is only possible when you're actually detached. You can't think about fame or money or all of that. So you
Fame,
just,
but like integrity or honesty. Like doing, like there's.
becoming an instrument.
Okay.
And I don't mean like Maradona, you know, the hand of God.
Fair enough.
I know soccer means nothing to the people in the great country, but some of us know what it's all about. So it's about being of service.
Right.
Understanding it's not about me. I have to take myself out of the center. Then that will create a vortex that will attract empowerment, that will attract inspiration, that will attract kindness and benevolence. And then that level of intimacy, that level of empowerment is the greatest gift, the greatest blessing, the greatest experience. That is what Bhakti means. To be in perfect union and love with the Supreme, with Krishna, and all living entities. That is beyond ego, that is beyond name, fame, glory, profit, distinction, adoration. That is the real stuff. That's what we're aspiring for. That's what we're here to learn. That's the magic sauce. That's what gets you out of bed early in the morning without an alarm clock. Because you know, I want this, I'm ready for this, I need this. Otherwise, it's always like, okay, chores, all right, homework, okay, all right, I'm gonna do it, fine. But it's not really, I'm not really there.
Engaged, involved.
I'm not really engaged, because it's always just, I'll do a little because I need that carrot, you know, because otherwise. But if you want to do great stuff, you gotta take it to another level. And then you can become empowered. And that doesn't matter what your deck of cards. It's not your potency. Everyone's cooking with water. Everything
Right.
comes from the same source. Some days you're gifted and some days you're not. But when we decide that, yes, I would like to do this, I would like to be part of this team who collaborates to make great things happen, then it can be a very transformational and very empowering experience.
Thank you.
And the Gita was spoken not to a yogi, not to a renounced person, but to a warrior, to a statesman, an administrator, a householder, a family man with children and wives. So you can be in any stage of life and have tremendous impact. Because sometimes we see things very mechanical and we think, oh, you gotta be a this or a that, otherwise it doesn't happen. The greatest lovers of Krishna are coward girls who have given their whole life for the service of God. Selfless service.
And
Thank
have you
you.
ever been told
Okay,
you
we can-
look like
we can
Jim
have-
Carrey?
Well, I don't know if I should take that as a compliment.
Or emote like Jim Carrey? It's a compliment.
Maybe I've been here too long.
It's a silly expression, but
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know what the mantra that you chanted when you were at boarding school for the 7 years that got you the goals. I know, you
That's the
realized.
mantra that we're gonna chant right now.
Oh, perfect.
The Hare Krishna?
Perfect.
It's the Hare Krishna mantra.
Okay, so everyone, we can stand up and we can
Yes,
stack all the
that's right.
chairs on this side. So Malik, you don't have the mantra, huh?
No,
Hook you up.
no, I don't. I wanna know though.
We're gonna give it to you. Is it right here? Hare Krishna mantra. So it's 3 words also.
Hare Krishna, Krishna is the name of God.
Okay. Rama means red.
Got the drum bass.
That's right.
I hear here.
So you're cold.
You hear everything?
You're cold. You're chilling. Hot? Oh, so you're chilling.
Something like that. I was asking, it was a question. Is it you chilling?
I have to take it literally.
Oh, we're live? Is one person watching this?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna So please chant the mantra every day, as much as possible. And whenever somebody cuts you off in traffic, or somebody says something that you don't like, instead of starting to speak sign language, you go, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And you'll see. Everything will be fine. All right, we got dinner.
So, yes.
So you tell how it works here.
And
Because
then
I'm a
everyone,
guest, I don't know what's.
everyone can join me in showing appreciation to Navina Prabhu. Travels all over the world, enlivening people everywhere he goes. So we can all pray that he can come back as soon as possible and spend some time with us. Yeah. So right now we will take. There's a nice little snack, little light dinner we've prepared. So you can just come out the door to the left.
Are you on Instagram?
And then if anybody has any questions, we're here to talk. We're here to share with you. We're here to.
I joined you offline.